Listen to this. He says, then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Now, there's a lot of controversy over those two verses. I remember when I was a very young man that there was a preacher come to our church. And I listened to him, and I'd always thought those verses were about the rapture. I did. I thought those verses were about the rapture. But when he come that day, he said, that's not about the rapture. I said, well, okay. He's older than me. He has white hair. He knows more than I do. I'll listen to what he has to say. And this is what he told me. He said that if you look back here, he said, he used the verses here. He said, look back here at this where it says about Noah. He said, and they knew not until the flood came and took them all the way. He said, who was took away, he said? He said, all those that were in judgment, right? They were took away. And then he went on down to here and he said, these says one shall be taken, the other left. He said, that's not talking about the rapture. That's talking about the end of time when God gathers together his elect from the four winds. That's something in Revelation. And that's not what that's about. Now listen to that. Okay. Now listen to what he's saying. It's good to question. Can I tell you that? It's good to question. If you don't dig these truths out for yourself out of the Word of God, you're not going to hold on to them. You hear me? You're not going to hold on to these truths unless you dig them out for yourself and you apply them to your life if you don't dig them out. So many years later, when God provided with me a Greek program that I could look at, I looked at those two verses. I went back to see. You do know that the Bible isn't written in English. It was originally written in Greek and Hebrew. The Old Testament Hebrew, the New Testament Greek. And when you look at this, the word that is used here in verse 39 that talks about took them all the way is a word called arrow. And that means simply to move away in Greek. It means simply to move away. But, you're going to get a blessing out of this next part. You're going to get a blessing out of this next part. That verse in verses 40 and 41, when he talks about the two shall be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. The one where it says two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. That word taken is a word called paralambano. That's a mouthful, ain't it? Paralambano. And paralambano means more than to just take away. Paralambano means, it's used many different times. It means to receive near, to associate with oneself. In a familiar and intimate act or relation, by analogy to assume an office. Let me explain to you the way Jesus used it in his regular vocabulary throughout the Scriptures. In Matthew 1:20, the angel comes to Joseph and it says this, the angel told Joseph not to be afraid to take Mary as his bride, paralambano. Don't be afraid to take her as your bride. In Matthew 17:1, Jesus, he says, he took Peter, James, and John with him up to the Mount of Transfiguration, where he was glorified before them. He said, took. This is probably the most precious one of all. In John 14:3, Jesus was talking to his disciples the night before that he would go and pay for the sins of the world on the cross. He says, I will come again and take you, paralambano, unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. Now, do you see a pattern? As I used to tell you back in kindergarten, do you see a pattern? You see, paralambano, Jesus is not talking about judgment, punishment, damnation, is he? No, he's talking about taking them for what? He's talking about taking a bride. What are you, the bride of Christ? He's talking about taking them up to glory. He's talking about taking them up to heaven. In other words, he's talking about the rapture. He's talking about the blessed hope. That hope that should be in every Christian's heart each morning they wake up. That blessed hope that perhaps today is the day. So folks, if you have a question about something I say or about something somebody else says, go to the Word of God. Dig it out. Dig it out because you'll hold to it. And now I have paralambano. My Lord's coming back to take his bride. You hear me? He's coming back to take his church one day. But one shall be left. One shall be left for the horrible judgments that I'm going to talk about tonight in the service tonight. The horrible judgments that will come upon this world. But Christ says, I've already faced the judgment for you. I'll take you out of that. I've already faced that judgment for you. I'll take you away. So you have an insurance policy, you might say. Look here at verses 42 through 44. He says, watch therefore. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. Now, if there was a bunch of things happening before the Lord come, you'd know what was going to happen, right? Ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the good man of the house, now that's the guy who owns the house, the good man of the house, had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore, be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man come. Do you think he's making the point here that you don't know when I'm coming back? You think he's making that point here that you don't know? Now think about that. How do? We sit down in a chair, and you know somebody's coming about 2 o'clock tonight, and you've got your shotgun beside you, and you've got it pointed at the door, right? You're prepared, you're ready, they open that door, they're going to meet Jesus one way or another, ain't they? You've got your shotgun prepared. You're not going to let anybody break into your house. But Jesus says, I'm not telling you the time I'm coming. So you better be living and working and breathing and doing the things that I want you to do based off of that. Years ago, an announcement was made on that millions of TV sets, remember the old big TV sets? They were going to be done away with. And the announcement was that they would stop working unless they were able to receive these digital signals by a certain date. Now, there were these notices that appeared in all the different Walmarts and wherever TVs were sold in electronic stores. And the government even offered a $40 coupon to anybody who would go buy one of these converter boxes. They were out there. Maybe some of you have gotten them. Most people took the necessary steps to go ahead and have a converter box. I remember my mama, we got to get that box. When we go get down there and get that box, I can't miss my stories, right? Can't miss my stories. So she wanted to get that box, so we got her a box because there was a certain time. We knew the time when we had to go get that box. We usually respond real well when somebody tells us there's a specific date. I think that I've told you all enough time that we're going to have the drive-through nativity out here, and everybody will be prepared and ready for that. But if I was to tell you, hey, we're doing the drive-through nativity tonight, y'all might be a little bit anxious about that, right? We don't respond well to not knowing when something's going to happen. But Christ has set up His return based on that I'm coming back, but you don't know when. You don't know when. It is an imminent return. So, folks, where are you at today? It's good to sit down and think, where am I at? What am I doing? I know when He's coming back. Perhaps today is the day. I don't know. Why not do business with God today? Today. Put away all this foolishness and pride that the devil put in your heart and do business with God today. Today. That's what this altar is for.
If you need to speak with someone about what was discussed in this sermon, you can find our phone number at our church's Facebook page, or we would love for you to come meet us at one of our regular meetings in person. Sunrise is located directly off exit 23 off of Interstate 81 in Tennessee. We regularly meet Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. for small group Bible studies and then at 10:50 a.m. for worship. We also meet Sunday evenings for worship at 6:30 p.m. and Wednesday nights for discipleship training at 6:30 p.m. We would love for your family to meet our family, and again, thank you for watching and sharing with others.